Hello and welcome back to Follow City Comics, or anything and everything comic book podcast. I'm Brandon Blocksdorf.
And I'm Alex Batts.
Dude, I was totally like getting that nose scratch right here, right when the video ended, and I was like, "Fuck!" Right when the video. So if you're watching that video, you got a nice little nose scratch. I'll acknowledge that. Dude, actually, right here, T'Challa nailed me across my nose. So my roommate has his girlfriend over, and she brought her dog, and so T'Challa's never seen a dog that big before.
Yeah.
He's fucking big compared to
massive.
Spock. Yeah. And so T'Challa was trying to be like, hey, you want to try to meet this guy? Let's see. And he was calm and he was cool. And then he like hissed and leapt out of my like hands and just slashed my nose so bad. Such a clean cut that it was just dripping. It was like, you remember in Dark Knight Returns where Batman hits the in the mud fight right above the eye and it just doesn't stop bleeding. That's what T'Challa did to my nose. He found that point and I just smelled blood for the rest of the night. That was my evening.
That's rough.
Yeah.
That's rough stuff.
That's my excuse for scratching my nose as the video
Really,
recording.
I was attacked by my cat last night, so that's why I was a little unprepared for the intro that I clicked. No, it happens. It happens.
Yeah, but the cat fights, you know what I mean? Cats are brutal.
Sure, yeah.
But so he won't be hanging out with us this episode. We always see T'Challa at some point, but he's just been hiding in my room for the last few days. So
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean that's a lot, and cats definitely love to be like, I don't want to deal with that shit. Actually,
yeah.
like
I've just
that's
been giving him
thing.
like his food and like water under the bed. He's like, thank you.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm good right here.
I'm chill
Actually,
here. I'm gonna give him a pillow soon just so he can like nap up under there.
Yeah.
But dude, it's been a minute since we've done anything else besides Miracle Man. So we decided to break the streak a little bit because I'm a big Fantastic Four fan. I really am. I like, for some reason, I'm very drawn to the Fantastic Four. Like, I just want to always uncover good FF stories, you know? And one of my earliest ones was today's reading, and I'm so hyped about it. But before we jump into today's book, we have a Patreon now.
Yes,
and
we do.
Patreon is the best way to help support the show because we not only have to like sometimes like pay for subscriptions to read books and do all this other stuff, but like maintenance behind the show for, you know, having the show hosted somewhere and published, and then there's editing software, and then we pay people to Evan. Evan McGuire does our designs, and so we pay out Evan because we're fucking good people, and you pay your artists, you know.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, there's costly things that come with the show all the time. And this new layout and background that you guys see that looks all wicked, that's all Evan right there.
Evan
and
crushes
so
it, bro. He's
Evan
so good.
just destroys. Our new logo, that's all Evan right there. So, you know, we have to pay the dude his dues. And, you know, in order to do that, like, you know, we all know economy is a little tough. But, you know, things are a little tight. But for $1 a month, for the price of a comic book a month, for, you know, $10 a month, you know, a quick, you know, Starbucks fancy drink a month, you could help support the show and make us, you know, help you pay for Adobe and crap like that. And when you do so, we get to, like, just honor you for a moment. So right now, we're going to honor our Patreon members.
Yeah, so we're going to do a little Patreon shout out here. I'm just going to say first names because I don't know if they, you know, want everything out there. It didn't clear with everyone, but big shout out and thank you to Diana. Also, apologies in advance for any mispronunciations that are bound to happen on this. Language is tough. So thank you, Diana, L, Max, Jess, Latrell, Brandon, Clarissa, and Minya. Big shout out.
Oh, Brad.
Big thank you, helping us keep this podcast running, doing what we do. Very much appreciated. Yeah, go check out our Patreon if you haven't. We've got a ton of different tiers, offering a bunch of different stuff. After Dark episodes are going to be coming to the Patreon soon. We're going to be picking up the book club again, which I'm super excited about. I literally was looking at it earlier. I was like, oh, I need to read that. So I'm excited to do that. But yeah, tons of really cool stuff there.
Yeah, super hyped about it. And I mean, you support us, we try to support other people, just like our good friend over at Coffee and a Comic at coffeeandcomic.com. And, you know, this is a little bit tragic news, but we had a good friend, John, who just passed away from cancer, and Coffee and a Comic and I and him, you know, we used to, if you go back to Coffee and Comics YouTube page, there's some great videos of us talking comics with John and just great, ecstatic, beautiful moments. And I'm so glad and happy that we had those moments, but also that they're available at the click of a button just to kind of relive and remember John's legacy. Collect 'em all or die trying was his Instagram page. Check out his YouTube page as well, where he has like some great videos with him and his daughter. And we tragically lost him this week to his battle with cancer, and it really kicked me and Frank's ass. Kind of hearing about that earlier in the month, really, by the time this episode comes out and whatnot. But if you head over to coffeeandcomic.com, I know there's links to the American Cancer Association where you could donate. If you support his shop, he does a lot along those lines as well. So supporting him goes a long way just to support the cause and the fight. And we're going to try to cook up some way to help, maybe help the family if we can, if possible. But set up stuff like that. So, go help a great shop, continue his success, and, do good things for a good friend in the community that's been, supportive for us. And he supported us. Like, even there was nights we would do live streams and it would just be like John, Danny, and I, or, Frank would pop in every so while to watch, but like, he's working at the shop. So like John would be just talking to us and hanging out, and we would just be drawing and sketching. He didn't have to do that. No one has to come hang out with us, but that dude had it in his heart to always tune in. And he was a really good friend, so we're really beat up about his loss. And if support Coffee and a Comic, we'll find ways to help support John to keep his legacy alive at the same time. And then you get your books bagged and boarded as they ship to you. Who doesn't?
Dude, that's literally, it's an extreme process. Like going through and bagging and boarding all of your books, especially depending on how you do it. Like if you let them build up for a little bit, and then you have. Like I've had to bag and board like 75 books before, and like setting, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is the worst.
So much time
thing.
wasted.
I'll be like, all right, I'm just gonna like put all the boards in all these bags first, and then I'll go through and like get all the, or like sometimes you'll do the other.
Try to like pre-prep, like, I'm gonna separate Marvel from DC, my Batman from like this, and Spawn and all that, and it's just no matter what, it's a pain.
There's just so many. It's just overwhelming.
And then keep your stuff protected, because we have insane cats running around and doing wild shit while things are happening. And you know what? If it's bagged and boarded, book will probably be safe.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it.
So check out our discount code below and hit up Coffee and Comic on Instagram and all social media as well. Like, great guy, good stuff. We always promote him, and fucking always supporting the show. But dude, we also have a lot of stuff brewing in the background right now too. We've been preparing for a lot, and we just had a major advancement and leap on a little project that you put together.
Yeah, so Cybersync, a cyberpunk comic anthology, the submissions at the time of this recording closed yesterday. So by the time this episode comes out, they'll have closed a couple weeks ago. Brendan and I spent a couple hours earlier going through all the submissions, looking at them. They're awesome. I'm so excited. It's really wild. We were talking about this earlier, that it's just surreal to see this book like really becoming a thing, and taking in and going into the next stage. And so the Kickstarter is like mostly put together. It's just awaiting like pictures, which we now basically have. There's a couple other things we need to get prepped for it, so we can get the pre-launch page, which hopefully by the time you're watching this actually should be up. So definitely go check out the pre-launch page. I'm just so excited. It's super cool just seeing all the submissions they got. Huge thank you to everyone who submitted. I really do appreciate it. It means the world to me. Seeing the interest in this has just been unreal, and I'm so happy. So it's super, super exciting stuff going forward, and just going to get even cooler, and I can't wait to show off more of this book and get closer to the Kickstarter.
Yeah, dude, it was wild going through those submissions, and for this being the second anthology I'm part of, it's such an interesting way to do it, and so much easier than the punk rock one already. Like, we figured out stuff that
I feel good about
months.
this. Like, I know you've been like, oh, this is gonna be so much work, and I mentioned I talked about how the other day I kind of had like a little bit. I was like, oh my god, it became very real to me, and I was like, this is going to be a lot. But also, I feel very confident and good about where we're at and kind of the game plan that we have. And I know what needs to be done, and so it's just a matter of doing it and like getting there. And so I feel very good about that. So that's definitely exciting.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't wait to share some of that information. And creators, if you're looking to make anthologies or anything and want some advice or guidance or something, feel free to hit us up. We have some stuff working to help other people do the same thing that we're doing, and we love to share that knowledge and spread that and make your life easier as you try to put your own book together. But yeah, I mean, and because of that, speaking of anthologies, probably while this episode is out, I'm probably at San Diego Comic-Con slinging this insane San Diego Comic-Con variant of the punk rock anthology. Check that out if you haven't seen it yet. It has a nice foil trim. Comics Wellspring sponsored book. We have to give them a huge shout out. for sending me out there to promote this book, to promote them, to spread the word of Comics Wellspring. And, I even have the original cover with me right now still, too.
So cool, man.
Dude, it's so epic.
Exactly.
I'm so ecstatic and happy about it. I can't believe it's real.
You know what I geek out about, honestly, on that cover so much?
Huh.
That Apollo City logo.
Dude, like, just in the top?
Because it's designed as a corner box logo, and so it being a corner... it's so nice.
And I mean, we haven't... Maybe I'll probably have announced it by the time this episode comes out.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was just thinking about it. It's so weird thinking... Because we're recording like 2 weeks in advance of when this will probably go up. And so thinking about what we'll have done in those 2 weeks between like now and then is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, so Apollo City Comics is now officially going to become an imprint of lesser-known comics. We are their Vertigo/Young Animal to their DC, and Alex and I are going to be running a bunch of stuff, and it's going to be a cool ship. And we have a great list of creators that we're working on books with, and anthologies. Kai has just announced her Shadow anthology.
Yes.
Yeah, shit's announced. Yeah, it's announced. Yeah.
By this point, it's 100% announced for sure. Like I'm 99% sure it was announced yesterday. Anyways,
submission should be opening soon at this point, like closer to that date. But the Shadow anthology is
time isn't
book.
real, you guys. It's fine. But...
Honestly, yeah, it's a brutal aspect trying to do some stuff. But it's going to be a great book. Another thing that we're doing a bunch of anthologies. So the punk rock anthology, Cybersync, the Shadow one, and then a lot of titles are coming under this that we'll be announcing very soon. But all the books I've been kind of talking about and announcing: Teenage Babylon, Fake Your Death. And I don't think I've formally announced it, but The High Adventures of Weed Wizard and Bong Boy will also be coming out under this imprint, along with Alex's book. 2 books, actually 3 books now with the Shadow anthology. I'm not Shadow anthology, Cybersync, right?
Yeah.
Have you revealed the titles yet?
I have not. I can say them.
Okay.
So I'm working on, one is Sundowning, which is a kind of crime like heist story, and the other is Avalon, which will be a cyberpunk book. That's originally, so Avalon is the reason that Cybersync exists, and so Avalon will be later down the line. Those 2 are the 2 that I'm working on. Besides Cybersync. Those are, I'm hyped for those. But everything, honestly, that we're doing for this imprint, I'm so excited about. Like you said, we're working with a ton of super talented and awesome people, and I'm so psyched to see and have all these comics come out.
Yeah, and you'll see some preview stuff come out through Lesser Known's Trash Can. It's actually this black and white book, and that's going to have a preview of Teenage Babylon. I'll have little mini Teenage Babylon comics to hand out as well. Then those will all be sneak peeks of what's going to be coming through this imprint that we're doing. So we're not just a podcast anymore. We're a publishing house and a podcast. So we'll be kind of guiding through this and have a lot more announcements along the publishing line pretty soon.
100%.
Yeah. So I mean,
that was a lot of announcements. That was a lot of housekeeping. I didn't realize going in how much that we were gonna have to talk about there. But yeah, a lot of stuff. A
lot of cool stuff. We've been busy. Hopefully you'll be watching the updates for Comic-Con and the panel. I mean, that's a big thing too. I didn't even get to mention that. We're doing. I got invited to Comic-Con because they invited me to do a panel on how music relates to comics and their correlation, how they influence one another. And it's 5 p.m. at the Omni Hotel in San Diego, California. So we'll be there. And, hopefully we'll be able to live stream that somehow, or, maybe record it and get it as an episode pretty soon. It's a big honor. It's a really cool thing that I'm just so lucky to be a part of. But, yeah, just crazy stuff and just a crazy amount of comics being made. And let's talk about some comics for a little bit
absolutely.
While we do that.
I'm excited. So this, I know you mentioned at the top that you're a big Fantastic Four fan, right? So you've read a decent amount, would you say?
Like a good handful. I'm not even going to say like a decent amount. Okay. I've read maybe more Daredevil than I have Fantastic Four. Okay. But they're just something that like I'm very attracted to. Like I have a Fantastic Four picture right there. I have the Silver Surfer right there. I have a Doctor Doom figure right there. Yeah. I have a FF1 omnibus. I have the John Byrne omnibus. I haven't read either one of them. They're fucking big. But I mean, I have like a lot of like geared up Fantastic Four lore.
Nice.
And I've read a good handful of runs and series.
I have only really read the Fantastic Four if they've appeared in something else that I've read. And I also have not read that many Marvel books outside of the X-Men, and especially the like current, like the Krakoan age X-Men stuff. Like I read some X-Men books and like from like 2015 to like Krakoa, and like I read some Marvel books, like I read Aaron's Thor and like some other just random things around there, but like I haven't ever really read any just straight up Fantastic Four comics. And I mean I think Doom hands down is like top tier villains. He's
Yeah.
the best
Love Doom.
villain in Marvel. I'm honestly like, the only argument I would say besides that would be Magneto, but then that I would get into like how you want to classify Magneto as a villain, which like he definitely is at times, but that's a whole different thing.
But I mean, Doom is always a villain.
Yeah, but
You know what I mean?
that's
And,
exactly what like
that's
Doom is like.
yeah.
It's Doom. Like, come on.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Doom is just amazing. So definitely, I've read more Doom centric stuff than I have the Fantastic Four because I read that infamous Iron Man by.
Oh, cool. How was that?
It was good. I liked it. I don't remember. I'm honestly, I was mad that it didn't like that status quo didn't last for longer. I liked him in that role. I thought it was interesting. I can't remember the writer now. I know Alex Maleev was the artist. I actually have some of those issues signed, which is cool.
Nice. That's super cool.
But yeah, so I liked that. So I've read more, and then also because he crossed paths with Wanda a lot. So like I've read him because he appears in Wanda's comics, and so I have more exposure to him than I do the main family as well.
Oh, nice.
But I think they're definitely cool, and I've always been. I mean, like I don't even want to say that. I've been sort of interested in them. Like I think they're cool. I just have never like been super drawn to them or really wanted to get into their stuff. And so I was excited to read these issues because you were like, oh, this is good, and this will be a good book to read after having watched the first movie. And I was like, okay. And then I got to the cover and saw that it was by Grant Morrison and Jay Lee, and I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna rock. Like I'm very excited now.
Yeah, and it's like Jay Lee before he really established that Jay Lee style. It was still kind of more of
2001, which is gnarly. I was like, oh man, this literally. Okay, yeah, the first issue came out at the end of September. It's always so wild thinking about comics in the context. I mean, I like
pre
to
and post 9/11.
Yeah, but I generally, I mean, I like to think about the context every year whenever things are released, because it's important what's going on in the year, and it's things that are released in media are definitely reflective of that. But yeah, especially like pre and post 9/11 because obvious shift in everything.
Well, I don't think the first few pages would have happened in a post 9/11. I feel like the first few images would have been like kind of jarring to present at that point. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean they did it was though, because the first one was published October 1st, 2001.
But I mean, the book was probably done months before that.
Yeah,
too.
but I mean,
You know what I mean?
but they definitely had to still. They I'm sure they was done, but they had a time to like pull that if they wanted to.
That's true. That's very true.
They definitely had to make a decision, like, and be like, are we doing this? And then because that was also I saw the 2001 date on the published thing, and I saw those first couple images, and I was like, oh okay.
Okay. I can see that then.
But, yeah, no. It's still it's a very, very good series though. I was definitely not let down.
Yeah, like I mean, just kind of kicking into it. What's cool about it is that I feel like for any Fantastic Four reader who's not like a native Fantastic Four reader, it's a good introduction to like give you a fun story, and you can understand all the personalities at the same time and all like the universal struggles that you see repeated with the Fantastic Four. Like you're introduced like to the Thing right away and his struggle with just being the Thing, you know what I mean? Being the good guy that's still getting fucking harassed by the cops, and like
he's like, I'm just trying to help, dude, come on. They're like, stop this, and he's like, whatever, dude, deal with it yourself next time then. Like,
bro, like when Galactus
you.
comes next time, you deal with it. Let you professionals deal with it with when Galactus gets here.
Yeah.
And then the cops just talking trash. Like, you think he's bad? Don't get me started on the Human Torch. Like, and I love that. Like,
yeah.
So
they're like, this dude's a real piece of work.
and I mean, you kind of like breeze through, and one of my favorite pages, and the one that kind of just stuck in my brain forever, are the Reed Richard pages. You find out when he's just like in his room, he secluded himself, he just disappeared on everybody out of nowhere, went straight to the office, and it's just like deep in thought, keep out. And he's just like all strapped up to these like electrical wires, all just kind of dangling over them too.
Yeah, that first splash page reveal of him, which it has the one overset or the couple overset panels too, was so gnarly to get to. I was like, oh damn, this does not look good, Reed.
Yeah.
You okay, bro? But it's such a striking image, and very much. I also love that he is just not there for most of the
No.
book.
Yeah.
He's just
You don't get
gone.
much Reed. Yeah.
And that does so much. That's so much character work without him being on the page, which is so impressive to be able to do. And then it's all also like made up for. I'm using air quotes on that because like it's part of the story. So of course this is just how it's meant to work. But like it's fully, you feel satisfied with the explanation by the end of the book. You're like, okay.
Oh yeah.
This
Yeah.
like worth it, 100%. Oh, cool.
100%.
I get it. Like, which is
Yeah.
so good. Like, because at first you're like, damn, this is not good, and you feel the despair going through the issue, and you're like, or the issues, and you're like, oh man, he's just totally absent or whatever. Which of course knowing storytelling, you're like, well, there's probably a good reason. He's Reed Richards. It'll probably come in, but like it still is just done in a very well done way. Like it's well executed and very cathartic, and I'm just like, oh yeah, this is great.
The thing about Reed Richards is that he's a scientist, which also makes him like an artist of some sort. You know what I mean? Like that's his craft. That's what he does to the T. He follows the blueprints. He tests some theories. He tests some things out and sees if they work. And he needs to find a solution to something. And it's the same thing when you write a story or draw a comic, or whatever the hell you do with art. And for him to like all of a sudden just have this realization, this idea that pops in his head, and he has to go and seclude himself and just lock himself in and be like, guys, fuck you. I got to do this. This needs to happen, and work on this project until it's complete. And when he presents it and everyone's like, oh, I get it. Like, I get why you just disappeared on all of us because you went to go make this brilliant thing and it's extraordinary. It's like, that's the life of an artist the most of the time.
Yeah.
And having that like correlation, that's where, once I made that early, like on in my fan, this is one of my first FF books I ever read.
Okay, nice.
And once I
Same.
saw that, yeah, there you go. Yeah, see, it's one of those things that like that's where I find the drive for the Fantastic Four, because I think of Reed Richards more as like the artist who's compelled to create and to experiment and to test these things out, and that's his focus. And he tries to balance his love life with it, and it's really hard and difficult. And he always comes back and needs to explain and apologize. It's always pretty much worth it for the most part. And then you have the Ben Grimm, who's always, and we see it in this issue too, where he's just like trying to deal with being himself. He's not happy with who he is and what he looks like and how he comes across to people. And he wishes he could change himself. He wishes he could go back in time to be who he was once at a certain point of his life. And he can't have that. And he keeps trying to get back to that. And the moment, every single time Ben Grimm gets that, he's not happy with going back. And he ends up needing to revert to his present self.
And it's so good, the perfect summation that Doom gives at the end of the first issue, whenever he's like, I'm just going to the page, how to destroy a man, grant him his heart's desire. And then also when he says like one, and I was like, oh, the title, no. Yeah. I was like, this is bad. But yeah, that line is so good. It's also too, I think this book does exactly what you were saying incredibly well, in the fact that it shows you and establishes the character personalities and how they interact with each other, and you just get it from the onset, and it's just done so well where you're like, okay, this is the Fantastic Four and I understand them now, which is so important for especially like a new reader. You can just walk into it and be like, oh, okay, I get who these people are and what they're about.
Yeah.
And it's done in a very compelling way too. Like, I've never cared more about them than I did in this book. I was like, okay, I really get it. I also too, like, I like Reed a lot. I think I'm most interested in Sue, and one of the things that I really, really loved in this book is that it's implied that her natural state is her being invisible. Like, it's implied that she's way more comfortable being visible all the time, and that it's like she has to choose to make herself visible, which I think is so interesting. And I loved her scene with Alicia when they're just sitting and having dinner, and of course, like, Alicia is blind, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect her that Sue's just sitting there invisible the whole time, because she's still like as present as she would be no matter what. And yeah, like, that whole scene is probably honestly my favorite scene in the book. Just that whole sequence
Oh,
between
dude,
them.
it's
And
a
that,
great one.
and also the art is so ridiculous in the fact that you can see exactly what she's doing based on, you know, the objects and everything moving around her. I'm like, Jay Lee, the master that you
Yeah.
are. It's
Yes.
just, it's
Yeah.
too good.
I love, like, Sue starts off because she's talking to Alicia, and I mean Alicia is the thing's Ben Grimm's girlfriend, for
Yes.
those who don't know.
Are they, so they're not married
They're not
in
married,
this?
I don't think yet. I think that comes way later on
Okay.
in some other stuff. I don't know. Maybe Dan Slott was the first one who married him.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure on
See,
my history.
that's the other
of that.
thing, though, that's a good example. Like, even if you don't know who she is, like, this book gives you the information that you need to know who she is, right?
Yeah.
And it also establishes at the end, too, that she's a very important part of the cast of the Fantastic Four. And like, okay, this is what she's like, as important as Alfred is to, the cast of Batman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's, if you get Batman, you're gonna get this. And so, like, she's a part of the Fantastic Four, which is really cool that the book does that super well.
And it's like they're the superhero girlfriend wives. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
have to learn how to cope with this lifestyle and still be romantic and still have, like, Sue is kind of, she does have abilities, of course, her shield and her visibility, and Alicia is blind, but she's like, and she's literally an artist.
Mhm.
That's the cool thing too,
Oh,
where these
which was
people are
so
scientists.
awesome.
And she's crafting, and she does everything with her hands, and she's doing. It's crazy. I think when we see her, she's doing like Doctor Doom like statues. And,
She does sculptures of all of them. Like by the end, it's all the characters in the book essentially.
Yeah.
She's doing the same things that Doom is like playing with, just on a bigger scale, which is also a really interesting thing. Yeah, but I wanted to touch on this before. You mentioned the like being the partner of a superhero thing and like having to deal with that. It's really interesting because Sue obviously, like you mentioned, has powers, and so she's easier to have in all the stories because she has the powers and can deal with it. But like, I always think it's impressive whenever characters who don't have powers that are the partners of a superhero are able to be as compelling and stay around in the story, because that's so hard. That's why a lot of superheroes don't get married or stay in long-term relationships unless it's with another hero, because having a superpowered person like partnered with a regular person is like narrative dead zone. Like it's so you can do the same like 3 plots, and that's basically it. And then you've just screwed yourself with the story, which is the worst thing that you can do in a serialized medium that has no end. So like it's always so cool though to see characters that are able to not be superpowered and still fit into a very pivotal spot and work. And it's like, oh, why does this character work? And seeing how that does go, and it's something I like to at least like notice, because it's something that I think is a big problem that like you see a lot of the time in superhero comics, where you're like, oh well, we have all these characters, but they only last for a little bit because they don't narratively have a place.
Yeah, and it's like they're also having to deal with, what's cool about Alicia is that they both kind of have to ground their partner who they're with. You know what I mean? Like, Sue is the one who has to ground Reed and bring him back down to earth and reality in a sense. And like in another sense that Alicia like grounds Ben, because she's blind but she's human, where Ben is like the thing, he's the rock. So her being able to bring him down to like reality and to that physical touch of things, where Ben is just a hard rock who really can't feel and touch stuff like that and have those same kind of like sensory abilities. Alicia has all that like tenfold, so she is just like everything that Ben isn't. And it brings a balance to these characters, and it helps these characters who are just like kind of big and hot-headed kind of level out and ground. And you could see that difference when Ben becomes like his normal self. When Doom, this Doom bot tells Ben to put on this glove, and it transports Ben to Latveria, and that's where we got the one, and it turns Ben back into his normal self, and it places him back in New York, and he's wandering around. He's trying to get back into the Baxter building, and they won't let him because they're like, "You're not Ben Grimm. We fucking know Ben Grimm. You're not him, guy." A car hits him. He gets in an accident. Dude, out of all times, he loses his powers and gets run over by a car and gets sent to a hospital ward where apparently he lost his arm and is having to deal with like morality issues. You know what I mean? He was the thing, this invincible creature, and he just got smashed by a car. His arm is missing. He's like trying to listen to these like people around him and deal with like, can't remember his past, and he knows something is off here. and that's where we get that's where also in the second issue where all that happens, and that amazing conversation happens between Alicia and Sue Storm.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Johnny is on a date, and I think Johnny is just one of the best characters to write. That's have fun with.
He's such a dick, dude.
He's such a dick,
He's
dude.
the worst. I love him so much. He's just the worst to be around.
This panel with him on the date where she's just like, "Does your hairstyle always have to catch fire like that? I didn't come here to be cooked like a steak." And then he's like, "Then you came to the wrong place, baby. I'm the fabulous human torch. Dig it or learn to live without it." Like, just totally full of himself. And he was being a dick to the thing earlier. You see their relationship established in the first issue too, where they kind of like make fun of and poke fun of each other, where they're always ready just to throw down and fight. And then he takes off on this date, of course. And what's funny as hell on the date, dude, what really gets me is that he hooks up with this girl. I think it's in the second issue. Yeah, obviously they hook up together, and then she's like, "Johnny, I love what you do to me, but these are third-degree burns." And he's like, "Yeah, my bad." And then he's like, "I shouldn't have been I've been thinking I shouldn't have been so mean to Ben earlier. Maybe we should find Namor and beat the hell out of him like a couple of buddies." He's like, "Take the wheel." Like, he finishes, he comes, and now clarity comes into his head, and he's like, not like...
He's like, "You can have this car too, by the way. I don't even... It's fine.
I can fly. Like, I don't know fucking my
like,
car
I don't
and
need
this
this.
shit." And the girl, "You're so cool, Johnny." Like, that's total... It's Johnny Storm to a T. You get like... And that's the thing. This is all over like 3 or 4 pages spread out across this issue. It's not a whole 10-page thing about Johnny. You get him in small little bursts. And that's all you need, and you understand him very clearly and very well. That leads into, like, you know, furthering the plot and everything, too.
Yeah. No, yeah. It definitely... It's... The pacing for everything, I think, is done exceptionally well. Because I especially at first, whenever I finished the first issue, and it got to, like, 1 at the end, I was like, oh, I hope that it's not, like... an entire issue is going to be focused on like one of them, you know, going forward.
Yeah.
Like, that would be a lot. And it doesn't do that, which is good, because I think that would have been, you know, too much. But like you said, it just gives you the right amount of time with each of them where you're like, okay, and you give very solid character, but then also further overall narrative push as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you know what's cool? We see a classic monster, Mole Man, the Mole Man monster pop up, and that's from Fantastic Four #1. So like that's why this is such a good early book. You're kind of seeing callbacks to that famous picture people have always seen of the FF battling this monster coming out of the ground, and you kind of see Johnny having to face off against him too.
Yeah,
I think that's super rad. And this third issue, Darkness and the Mole Man, which brings in these classic villains. Kind of like when you think of like some of these FF villains, like it's kind of like when you think of the Sinister Six, not Sticks.
the Sinister Six.
Sinister Six, and
it's
like,
dude, that'd be a great cover band name.
It really would be. That really would be the Sinister Six. Oh my god, Alex.
Sorry.
We need to do that. No, we don't like we need to do that. We just stop
good.
Apollo, start a Styx cover band.
I know everything that we said about that imprint earlier is just
That's all.
This Sinister Sticks.
Dude, we just dress up as like Doc Ock and play like Froggy.
Oh my god! Just get the tentacles to do like the symbols. Just like program.
Doc Ock would be a good drummer actually, and then you'd have Electro and guitar. Who is all in the Sinister Six? Is Craven in it?
I mean, sometimes it depends. Like he has been, I think. I don't think
Rhino's in it.
I don't think Craven normally is though.
Rhino would play bass.
Rhino would play bass. Yeah, Rhino would play bass. Electro
would be keyboards actually. No, he would be lead. He'd have to be lead guitar. It's all shreddy.
Bro, I could see Electro on like a violin. I feel like he would be. Yeah, I feel like he would love to just like. I feel like he would love that limelight because he'd be like, "Give me a solo, dude."
Like Yellow Card now, like where it's.
They'd be like, "Dude, where's Sticks band?" He'd be like, "No, trust me. Like you need me."
And then like I feel like Scorpion would be something lame. He would just be like side percussion. You know what I mean? He wouldn't even be like a full instrument.
Yeah. He'd just be standing on the stage most of the time.
What's cool about Doom in this book that we did not get in the FF movie is that this is a Doom who's both like a genius and like is dabbling with magic because he's, you know, what he's doing and how he's controlling stuff. but it's also very scientific too. You know, Doom is the blend of science and magic, and
Yeah.
we don't really get that. They always just do the kind of science aspect because of Reed Richards, and I feel like that's easier to tell.
Yeah.
But the magic aspect of Doom is really what makes Doctor Doom Doctor Doom. You know what I mean? Like he
Oh,
knows
100%.
more than everyone because not everyone knows about these like mystical properties that he dabbles with a lot.
Yeah. I think that it's really cool, and I think that what Doom does a lot is the thing where it's like sufficiently advanced technology would be indistinguishable from magic. I think that's also what a lot of what he's like dealing with, and especially in this book, because it's like the higher dimensions and all these other like concepts and crazy shit.
Hmm.
I think, yeah, it's just really awesome to see, and I like that this has him operating at that level and just like purely showing his intellect. And also, I love that the book, I love how much it doesn't explain about the concepts. It just throws them and it's like, well, this is just what's happening. It's again, like, I just love when things do that and just commit to it because, like, yeah, I'll buy into whatever you want to tell me is happening as long as you just
Yeah.
do it. Like, make it compelling. And, you know, as long as it makes sense to me. Like, I read it and I'm like, okay, that checks. Like,
Yeah.
I'll bite. And the book just does that in spades and it tells a really, really damn good story while doing it. And it just explores all the characters very well. Like, you get such a clear understanding of how much of a piece of shit Doom is, and also how petty he is. Like, also one of my other favorite scenes is when Sue is just telling him off at the end, and
Oh yeah.
she's just like, dude, you could be doing so much, and you're just being a little ass. Like, you're just being jealous for no reason. Like, come on.
Issue 4, she's like, I'm literally like embarrassed for you, or
Yeah,
like
she's like, you
ashamed
should
for
be
you.
ashamed of yourself. Like,
Yeah.
come on, dude, be better.
You could be curing cancer and doing all this cool shit, but you're just fucking up
She's
all
like,
the
you
time.
could take your people to space, bro, and instead you're trying to do this. Like, you're messing with us for what? What do we do? And yeah, it's amazing. And there's so many moments like that though in this book.
Her and Namor, you know what I mean? That's the
Yeah.
whole. That's another thing they include into this very fluidly, very well, and they put Namor into the plans, and the Namor, Sue Storm love triangle starts getting mixed up and everything, and all of a sudden, like to the point where everything gets turned around, and Namor has to help them to get out of the situation and be the good guy. And kind of like back away and be like, all right, Sue, I gotta let you go. You know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
he doesn't want to, like, but he does it for her because Namor actually does love Sue Storm.
It's
And
also
it's kind of wild.
it's another perfect example of this book doing. This is I guess a book that I'll point to from now on. Like, I point to whatever happened in the Caped Crusader as like a perfect, like, if someone didn't know who Batman was, I'd be like, this is the character defined. Like, here you go. Like, this is what that book feels like to me for the Fantastic Four, because it also, I'm someone who doesn't really have a Namor. Again, I've read him when he's shown up in other things, and like, I know that he's just like the most self-confident narcissistic dude like ever, right? And like, for good reason. He's ruling Atlantis, you know, he's got a lot to back himself up. But and I also just like very vaguely know, like, I just know that the Namor Sue Storm like love angle exists. I know that that's a thing, but I've never really like read anything with it in it or kind of like understood. And I saw it in this and I read it in this and I was like, oh, I get it. 100%. I understand exactly what this story is. I know why these characters interact in this way. And I'm like, oh, okay, it clicked and it made sense and it was just done really well. And he just like slides into the story in a way that, again, enriches both the characters and the overall plot functions, because it's like, okay, well, he's like mixed in with Doom, which would make sense, you know? And so it all
And then
like.
Mole Man being involved with that too, being like, Doom is giving all these promises, Mole Man. Namor's telling him, and
Yeah.
he's just like, he's not delivering. Like, you gotta see that. Like, she's just messing it all up. Doom is fucking up. Like, we gotta like fuck this up.
The line whenever he's like, you want to be my partner or like my helper or whatever, and he's like, learn to swim.
Yeah.
Get out of here, bro. Come on. Dude just slaughtered him.
I
Yeah.
love how like disgusting Mole Man looks in this book too.
Yeah.
He looks really creepy and I mean, he's a dude that lives in darkness, and then he wants to keep Alicia because she's also blind, and he's like, we'll be blind together. We'll never have to see each other. You know what I mean? Like all that type of romantic stuff, and you're just like, that's ridiculous.
Like, this is not as cool as you think it is, bro.
And, like, issue 4 caught me off guard when I first read it because I was kind of like, what? Did I not know some of this? And some of the history that's going through, and this like falsehood on like how, that Doom is created out of the darkness of Reed, And I
Mhm.
was like, damn, that's epic. Like him going into like the mountains and releasing this, and it created him, and that's where like this monster, fucking came from. And Doom, it's all Reed's fault. It's all Reed's fault because we all know it's all Reed's fault why the FF became the FF. You know what I mean? He's the one that got everyone to steal the ship and go and do the thing, and
Yeah.
they fucked up and they got powers. And so Doom wanted that as well. You know what I mean? And I love how they twist it around and they give you a giant Doombot, which is pretty sweet. You know what I mean? I love the Doombot stuff.
Oh yeah,
And
Doombot stuff is always a win. Like, come on.
and we get Reed finally coming out and like figuring things out and saving the day, and that's where we get the whole explanation of like, I forgot where Reed says it. I'm trying to find the panel. Gosh, I don't know if I wonder if it's at the very end where he gives the whole explanation. But basically, like he, oh, he all right. He moved his prime mover ring to take control of our lives. He wanted us all to think that I brought him into being somehow. When I became aware something was wrong, I had to act immediately. There was no time to alert any of you. I only hope everyone can forgive me, and I hope you all let me take you with me on an exploration mission to the quantum sphere.
See, I
And
love them just like dropping that.
Yeah,
Because he just goes into
while I
like
was doing that,
some like cosmic comic shit that you do not need to worry about right now. But like it's just I love that though. It's amazing. Like,
and he was like, I noticed it out of the corner of my elastic consciousness where I was interfacing with the prime mover circuits. I don't know if that's actually what I'll call it, but it probably has its own name for itself. And Reed is just fucking going on, and even the team is like, Reed, ixnay on the $1 million concepts. Like, I'm back in a pith helmet right now after I check on Alicia. And he's just like, it's just such a cool thing. It is a brilliant FF book because when you do a family book, you need a crisis. And you need a way for everyone to understand the family. You need everyone to understand the villains and what's involved. And you've brought like almost every aspect, all the classic original aspects. You get Doctor Doom, you get Namor, you get Mole Man, you get feuding Thing and Johnny, you get the emotional, the relationship strain between
Sue and Reed.
The
You get Reed
love
being
triangle.
a genius. Like
You get Reed being a genius.
You get
like,
the Reed and Doom like inverse and like them like you see why they clash. Yeah, it's everything, dude. It's all of it.
It is an ultimate FF books in 4 issues.
Yeah. Also, how much do you know about the Prime Mover as like a concept?
I don't.
Okay, so that's another reason this book got me, because as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, okay. So the prime mover is a philosophical concept advanced by Aristotle. So a prime mover is essentially like, for Aristotle, it would be God, but like God does not inherently, in this context, mean like the religious God. It's just like the thing that caused the universe. So like the prime mover is essentially a causeless cause. So like it's the thing without something before it. It started everything. And then also like for Aristotle, the prime mover is in a state of pure actuality. Like it has no potential for change itself. So like that's also why it's the like causeless cause. So it's just a whole like thing, and the fact that that is the name that they're using for what Doom and Reed are doing to be able to manipulate the universe on such a scale like this. It fits perfectly, but it's just...
That's epic.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, this got me. Like, they're literally... When Doom first said that he was, like, the prime mover, I'm like, oh, he's literally calling himself the cause of the entire universe. Like, that's amazing.
Dude, that's epic. I did not know that at all.
Yeah.
So I thought that was just like a thing that they made up.
Oh, because also it's a badass name. Like, it sounds so cool.
Dude, it's epic. I know. It's such a cool book. I'm glad. It's been years since I've read it, and I just thought, like, I was thinking about the movie we saw, the FF movie, and I was like, damn, like, what's a really solid like Doom FF book? And I was just like, you know what? I always forget Grant Morrison wrote one. It's 4 issues. I should revisit it. And honestly, like, this would be the ultimate FF movie. You know what I mean?
It'd be so
like,
good. You mentioned that before I started reading it. You because we were talking earlier, and you just offhandedly said that, and I was like, I thought about that while I was reading it, and I was like, yeah, this definitely would be. Here's the blueprint. Just do it.
Yeah, you get it all. And it's dope. And I'm glad we got to read it, and I'm glad we got to share this love, and hopefully people get to dip back into it, to the Marvel Knights stuff. But I don't know, man. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Thanks for hanging.
Hell yeah.